What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Crypto Catch Up with me, Benny. Now, apologies, I have obviously not been putting up videos all too frequently recently. Come June 30, I've had quite a few deadlines at work which successfully have been made. So hopefully now in the new financial year for us in Australia, I'll be able to get onto some more videos, because I certainly have come across a few things that I'd like to share with you all out there moving forward. Now, today's video, what I actually want to cover is just some talk around private versus public blockchain platforms. So with those, I think what we're finding is, especially a lot of Facebook communities and a lot of the general community, is that people have heard about blockchain, they've heard about cryptocurrencies, but they don't realize how, I guess, big it will be in terms of private industry as well. People argue, obviously, the fact that it should be decentralized and privatized network, what's the point, etc., etc. But you need to realize there's a lot of use cases where you need a single source of truth, and that could be across a number of businesses or participants in a network. And you might need regulators informed, and you might need, particular things to happen at particular points in time along supply chains, etc., which obviously don't always need to be shared from a decentralized point of view, because normally in a business relationship, you would have some form of trusted parties in that. It's obviously that of cryptocurrency, where you need that trustless environment. So really what I'm trying to get out here is that what we're finding, or what I'm seeing a lot of, is that 2018's brought more ICOs in total than what 2017 had. The average price per ICO currently, or what they're getting, is around 25 million, and essentially they don't need that money. They don't, one, need that amount of money, but two, they don't actually need it at all in terms of a token or some form of what they're calling utility for their particular project. A lot of these projects out there in the cryptocurrency side of things, on the public, decentralized networks, are, circumventing the whole security process, or the securities process, in favor of an ICO, because it's easier to obviously get the money from consumers like yourselves out there, because you're sitting there at home ready with your cash to, hopefully make a profit. Now, I completely get that side of things, so please don't think I'm, all for one and one for all. What I'm just trying to say here is that a lot of these projects are reverse engineering a token economy, or some form of crypto economy, into that of, having to utilize some form of extra token to pay a network, or to, buy a particular access rights, or to vote, or to do things like that, when essentially it's not required. The use case in a lot of, these particular projects actually shows that if they were to not add this convoluted little process to the side in their business model, they could actually have a highly efficient model without obviously the users to be part of it. Now, obviously this only applies to specific use cases, specifically in supply chains and things like that, where I'm not sure if you think about this, but when I look at projects that tracking the provenance of something that I might not ever actually have anything to do with, for example, grains, for example, malt, barley, or anything like that, any raw product that by the time I as a consumer get to it, it's actually bottled and it's actually transformed across many stages of a life cycle, I don't really care so much in terms of where that barley has come from, because normally that would be from business to business, and then it would come to the final product. Why do I need a particular token as a consumer to be able to perform that business? Why would another business need to pay in a particular type of token when they could just pay in Bitcoin if they wanted to pay for something physically or digitally in this circumstance? It just doesn't really make much sense. So what we're going to go through in this video, and it's going to be hard because it is time consuming to get a lot of these concepts out, but I just want to show you a very simple way that you can go out there, build a private blockchain network, and practice and understand the concepts behind participants in a network, the assets in a network, and the transactions that you may perform. And you can formulate your own use cases, and I want you then to take those use cases and apply them to some of the ICO projects that you see. And for those particular projects, you could realize then that maybe if this was tweaked a particular way, or what kind of business processes might be undertaken, that these extra tokens aren't needed. And when I say they're not needed, it's because private blockchains don't actually have tokens inherently there. It's not required. If you're talking of business to business, even business to consumer transactions, you don't need another freaking token. You just need the internet, the backbone of the internet, and some form of web page or application on your phone to actually pass that information back and forth. It's called data. We've been using it forever. How else do we do transactions now? It's absolutely ridiculous, some of these token economies that are being forged just to appease these people so they will buy into their ICOs. So, I'll have a look at the time. All right. Let's get onto it and see what we can do. So what we're going to be going through today is a project or a test playground essentially of a project called HYPERLEDGER. Now, if you don't know much about private projects or private blockchains, there's heaps of them out there. They are far more efficient than Bitcoin. They're far more efficient than Ethereum. But they do things differently. So one is not better than another as a holistic because they apply to different use cases, industries, or otherwise. But essentially, HYPERLEDGER was built originally by IBM. It was gifted then to the Linux Foundation, which run a range of things, obviously one of them being Linux, which a lot of servers run on. It's an operating system, etc., etc. Now with that, HYPERLEDGER has 5, 6, 7 different kinds of projects or platform kind of templates available that you can utilize in industry, open source. Don't need to pay a cent, just need to build it out yourself. And it's built in more common programming languages. So what this tool is here is essentially, it's a composer playground. It allows you to take a business concept and to build it out. You can code in here, you can do transactions, and that's what we're going to go do right now. So like it says here, let's blockchain. So we can deploy a new business network. So if I click here, you can give it a name, you can give it a range of, variable basic information, or you can pick from a model network. Now, what I'm going to pick is animal tracking network here. And the reason why I'm picking animal tracking network is because it's something that we can all relate to. We see projects in Australia called Blockchain. Blockchain says it needs a token. My viewpoint is that it doesn't. It's created a false economy to, make sense of why you've paid for that. But as a consumer, that whole project is about tracking the provenance of something from business to business scenario. So we'll use an animal tracking network here because we can, I guess, the concepts within are analogous to animals, that they are to wheat, barley, etc. They are to pharmaceuticals, to tracking of anything from one party to another with a transaction without another token being needed. We're going to do it right now. So do I need to change anything name here? Do I need to change, what the network name is or any descriptions? No. But we will just go blah, blah. Who cares? And we'll make the admin user here Crypto Catch-Up. Beautiful. We've selected animal. Let's deploy. Bam. We have deployed it right here, live and ready to rock and roll. So within any network, like I've talked about, there's 3 main objects or classes of objects here that we need to talk about. The first is participants. So participants are essentially actors in a network. You, me, businesses, organizations, etc., etc. They perform transactions on assets. Assets in this circumstance being animals, business to business, or a particular field, like a farm. If you've got multiple farms, you might have animals on different farms. You might have wheat, barley, or other things on different farms that you then ship to another farm, that you then ship to another business. That's what we're going through. So we have defined 2 transactions here: animal movement departures and animal movement arrivals. So you send it from one, send it to the other, they receive it, it changes its global state from what they're going to be called later, which we'll go through, is either in transit or in field. So an asset, an animal in this circumstance, is either being moved from one to another or it is sitting in a particular field. Obviously, if this was a supply chain, what we would there be saying is that there'd be more transactions, or there's more states that it could be in. It could be in field, it could be then in transit, it could then be, being turned into beer, it could be turned into a range of things, and you'd be tracking those particular life cycles. You then could have sensor networks, which obviously fire off these transactions when they hit each one of the particular destinations or rule sets that you might have in your smart contract, to then, if it hits here and it's being shipped overseas, that it automatically generates an invoice and sends it to, I don't know, the regulator here, because they want to know, the quality, who the farmer is, where the business is from, etc., etc. So on the left-hand side here in the Composer, we have different file types. You have your model file where you define your animals. So we've got 4 different kinds of animals here, 2 different types of movement statuses. You've got production type, whether it's meat, wool, or otherwise. You've got the definition of a participant or a user. So they must have an email, first name, last name. And then if you are a pharma participant, it extends that user and it asks for, obviously, a few extra details, etc., etc., etc. Now, this is obviously all basic code here, and you're not going to understand that, but it's just to show you how easy this is. So just to show you how easy it is, the farmer, like I said, it asks for these and these variables here. So currently, postcode, country, address, etc. If we go to test and I go to farmer and we go to create a new participant, there they are. There's all the things that it's asking for. If I then wanted to change this at home, because like I said, this is a test playground. It allows you to, go forth and do whatever the hell you want to define your own business use case. It's going to tell me I've got an error because you can't have that. If I go phone, because I want the phone number as well, I can click deploy changes. It's successfully deployed onto the network now. We go to test. I go to create a new participant, and there it is. It's asking for a phone number again. So pretty simple stuff, guys. You don't have to know a lot of coding to be able to work a lot of these things out. However, it is, there obviously for professionals, for developers to utilize these tools. All I'm really trying to show you is that we're about to deploy a blockchain solution. We're about to do some transactions on these animals from business to business, tracking its provenance without actually needing another token. And that's really what I'm getting at here. All right. So you've got your script file of it defines what this movement departure means, etc., etc. We don't need to go into this. And access control. So this is one of the big things with Hyperledger or with private blockchain solutions, is that use some form of ACL. So, this access control that allows you to define, from a consumer perspective, if they are involved in the transactions on the network, what they can see, what they can perform, business to business, what they can perform, even down to the individual business level. So if you have 3 super users, 2, admin users and something else, you can define that within this rule set. And the best thing about this here, guys, is that all of these files, once they're created, you can add them or you can export them. So if I was to export them, it will create this BNA file, which can actually then be deployed onto a server and be used as a blockchain solution, and you just only have to build out the front end user experience. You'd be ready to rock and roll. So let's go and test this whole theory out of what we've been talking about. The first thing we need to do is create a farmer. I'm not going to care about the regulator. We're going to create one animal to transfer from one business to another, and we're going to create 2 businesses. So if you could imagine you're actually, a user of this product right now and you were a farmer, this button to you would be like, sign up, sign up as a new farmer to this platform. So let's sign up a new farmer. So the only thing I really care about here is not really much. We can chuck in really any data here. It doesn't really matter to me. Create new. You've got one farmer, happy days. If we wanted a farmer, if we wanted a regulator, it doesn't really matter. So this is a user. Now, if we go and create an animal, obviously this here, you would import what you already have. So it's defined it already as, you know, farmer number, owner is whatever. I don't really care for it. Let's go, it's going to be farmer ID 1 with sheep, goat, who cares? Animal ID 4896. I'll write this down just in case I need it. Create new. Boom. We have a sheep in the field. There's its status. It's in field. Ready to rock and roll. Businesses. Let's create them. Let's go. Farmer number 1. Fill it in with the rest of random data. Don't really care. So we've got the SBI here, which is what they use. So I need to write this down. 3199 and farmer number 1. And the reason why they use this is just the way they've set it up. So they're saying that this is like a unique identifier for this particular business. And if I then create another business, and we'll call this bad boy farmer number 2, generate the rest of the random data because I actually don't care. And we actually have 0052, and that is farmer number 2. All right, we have one animal. It's a sheep, goat, species. It's in the field. It's meat. And as you can see here, it's all the transactions. So if we can review the record of what's going on, so this is what happened, and it has a timestamp of when it happens. Now, on a Hyperledger network, something to keep in mind is that assets have a finite life. So for example, grain, at the point in time where it's sold and turned into something else, or an animal when it's taken to the slaughterhouse, or whatever it may be, a car that gets crushed at the end of its life, the asset then dissipates. It becomes no longer. But the transactions are always held on the solution as an immutable record to show you when and where that occurs. So a transaction type for a car being crushed is the end of its life. You could have a transaction type that says, you know, car crushing, and then you know at that point in time, bam, it's done for, it's finished, no longer exists. So what we're now going to do is show you guys, I'm going to transport this animal from in field, from farmer number 1 to farmer number 2 in terms of these businesses. You ready for this? Ready? So it's going to leave. We're going to click animal movement departure. We've got animal 4896. We're going to move it from business 3199 to business 0052. Bam. Animal. It's now not in the field. It's in transit because an animal movement departure. There we go. It's moving there. You can see it's moving from 3199 to 0052. So if we go back to here, it's moving from 0052, blah, 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 blah. From this guy, 3199, farmer 1 to farmer 2. Ready? Submit transaction. Arrival. The big boy, the big hef, or the sheep, sorry, goat, whatever the hell it was. Just changing here, guys. It's going from number 1, 3199 to 0052. Right. Bam. Successful transaction. Let's have a look at our animal. All right, so it's back in the field, and now it's moved to farmer 2. Can you see that, guys? Wow, we've just created a whole blockchain solution that we can click on and go over here, click export, deploy it onto a server or a serverless server like AWS Lambda. We can create a whole ecosystem of participants, assets, and transactions, do whatever the bloody hell we want, transfer something from one to the other without a token. Amazing. Bloody amazing. Now, of course, like I've said throughout this video, there is use cases where obviously consumers are going to be involved, and there's going to be a particular level of, you know, involvement needed where it might actually require some form of digitized asset. As far as I'm concerned, this transportation, we could create a digitized asset of the grain so we can track it, fungible, non-fungible, doesn't matter, but it doesn't need a token where you're actually selling it to someone else. You need to digitize the asset to be able to track it, of course, across its life cycle, but you don't need that token. All right, guys, that is this video. That is it. If you want to come and play with HYPERLEDGER Composer, please do. Like I said, you can go back, you can set up your participants in the network, you can do everything and define your use cases. Now, you might need to learn a little bit of JavaScript or whatever along the way, a bit of JSON objects, but it's probably worthwhile if you want to get into this space. But for the rest of you out there, please take a step back. Don't believe what these suckers are saying to you, because it is that easy. Catch you later.